I think we can skip a lot of this. Yeah. Susanna, we've seen this too many times. Oh, wait. Rewind. Sanan and I exchanged a pair of smiles, and I held out my hands to let the breeze brush across them. It's really gotten warm lately.
まあ、今の私には風より日差しの強さの方が勘に触りますがね。
Really? I didn't think the sun was particularly strong that day, but the Sanan-san, who hid in the shadows and out of sight during the day, it must have been unbearable. The night he changed. Sanan-san's hair turned white, and in his eyes was a thirst for blood. But looking at his peaceful smile now made it hard to imagine such a night was real. If someone told me it was all a bad dream, I would have believed it. It wasn't a dream, though, and now Sanan-san spends his days hiding from the sunlight and from others. For just a moment, the sun lit on Sanan-san's hair. I didn't know if it was a trick of the light or simply my mind being foolish, but in that moment his hair was a brilliant white.
どうかしましたか？幽霊でも見るような目つきで人を見るのは良いこととは思えませんが。
いや、なんでもない。He looked perfectly normal now, of course. Surely, I thought, I must have simply imagined it. Even if I had, there was no denying that he was the same man who went mad with bloodlust. The fear of the night cast a shadow over my heart. Okay, now we can skip. The boys are here to save us. Where's Yamazaki? Because he's...
副長たちの心配は無用だ。
Yamazaki, when did you...
副長のメイだ。君はこのまま俺が豚所まで連れて行く。
Then you're telling me to run away?
その通りだ。君がここにいてもできることは何もない。
I mean, he may be right, but... We'll go back to headquarters. Even as I ran back to the headquarters with Yamazaki, I couldn't shake the fear in my heart. When I finally got to the compounds, I still felt nervous, and I could do nothing but stare into the blank darkness behind me.
もう大丈夫だ。さすがにここまで追ってはこれまい。
But...
不安なところ申し訳ないが、俺は副長たちのところへ戻らなくてはならない。皆将軍校の警護に出ているから、今の屯所に大使はほとんど残っていない。沖田さんか東堂さんのところにいるのがいいだろう。そこが最も安全だ。
はい。Understood.
では、後のことは頼んだぞ。
With that, he disappeared back into the darkness. Suddenly, the night felt very quiet. The word demon echoed through my head, and their faces floated in front of my eyes. I shook my head. As the temple came back into focus, I felt very, very alone. As Yamazaki said, I should go find Okita or Hesuke. But whom should I look for? Hesuke, apparently. The night compounds that I'm so used to felt like a place I didn't know. Nearly all of the members of the Shinsengumi left to guard the shogun, which meant the compound was still cold and oddly silent. So when I spotted Hesuke, I was quite relieved. 平介。
あれ、なんでここにいるんだ？将軍の警護は終わったのか？
Actually, I didn't know where to start. Stumbling over my words more often than not, I poured out the whole story. At the mention of Almagiri, the man who wounded Heisuke at Ikeda, he scowled.
あいつが二条城に。しかもお前を迎えに来たって。人違いじゃねえのか？お前にそっくりな誰かと勘違いしてるとか。
I don't think so. I don't know how, but they knew my name.
そっか。なんか気味が悪いよな。
It is. It is.
でももう大丈夫だからさ。安心しろって。
Arigato. But wait. I thought you didn't feel well. Shouldn't you be resting inside? Or better yet, I'll prepare some medicine.
あ、実はさ、違うんだよ。調子が悪いわけじゃなくて。
What? Why? He looked at me for a moment, then shook his head in defeat.
ただ、警護に行きたくなかったんだ。
What do you mean you didn't want to go? Why? Heisuke seemed to be unsure whether to open up, and he looked up at the night sky for a moment. Eventually, he slowly but quietly continued speaking.
近藤さんとか土方さんは、幕府とか家持公のことをすごく尊敬してるけど、俺はとてもそうは思えなくてさ。
What do you mean by that? I was in disbelief that he would admit such a thing, so I had to ask.
お前はしばらく江戸に戻ってねえからわからねえのかもしれねえけど、今の江戸はさ、偉人が我が物顔でいろんな建物を建ててて、なのに幕府の役人はそのことを全然気にしてねえみてえでさ、本気で攘夷をするつもりがあるのか、江戸に住む人たちを守るつもりなんてねえんじゃねえかって思っちまって。こんな状況で将軍上洛って言われてもいろいろ引っかかっちまってさ。それにお前も聞いたんだろ、例の薬の話。
My heart pounded. I did.
あれもさ、もともとは幕府の命令なんだよな。近藤さんたちは頑張って実績を積めば幕府もいずれ認めてくれるって思い込んでるけど、このまま便利にこき使われて捨てられる降参の方が高いんじゃねえかな。
Heisuke.
誤解しないでくれよ。俺別に近藤さんや土方さんのやり方に不満があるわけじゃねえんだ。やっぱりあの人たちのことは好きだし、ついて生きてえって思ったからこうやって一緒に今日に登ってきたんだし。
Heisuke's eyes were filled with confusion and pain, and it hurt my heart seeing them. To be in the predicament of not knowing what's right or wrong, and how to confront being loyal to something you don't believe in. So, was that why you invited Ito to the Shinsengumi?
ああ。伊藤さんは政治とか世の中のことに詳しいし、人脈もあるし、タイをいい方向に導いてくれるんじゃねえかって思って。 少なくとも今よりは。
As any group grows, it must begin to accept people with different viewpoints. Size in human nature simply decrees it cannot be tightly Size in human nature simply decrees it cannot be tightly focused forever. So long as a Shinsengumi fought in the front lines of any war, it would lose friends to death. But how many might it lose, I wondered, to differences of opinion? I did my best to put the thought from my mind. Enjoy the present. Don't worry about the future. That was what I truly believed, and I quietly looked up at the starry sky. Since then, once the rest of the men returned, there was a meeting among the captains. The subject of that meeting was the 3 men at Nijo Castle, Chikage Kazuma, Kyuju Amagiri, and Kyo Shiranui. They called us some demons, and their previous encounters with the Shinsengumi suggested they were somehow involved with the Satsuma and Choshu. The Satsuma were the most powerful domain in the opposition domain, and the Choshu were publicly expressive of their disdain towards the shogunate. The Choshu were essentially enemies of the court. I don't know how the 3 men were supposedly affiliated with the domains, but it was adamantly clear they are not to be dealt with carelessly. There was another problem, however. Why had they come for me? They said I was one of them, and knew about my family name and my kodachi. But how? My name is Chizuru Yukimura. I am the daughter of my father and my mother. I am a normal girl, nothing out of the ordinary. But who am I? Alright for skipping? Because we're going to skip a lot, actually. I'm sorry, we gotta skip the beef kick. We've seen it too many times.
Yuki. 君のだが。
たとえ将軍校の御殿医を務めておられる方のお言葉といえど、大使でもない方に口を差し挟まれる筋合いはありません。
Sanan-san? His face was pale as moonlight, as if he was a walking corpse. See, now I gotta stop at all the parts where Sanan-san pops up, because I don't know what he's gonna say. Is it okay for you to be up right now?
Sanan-kun, 休んでいた方がいいのではないか。顔色が悪いぞ。
ご心配なく。
He bowed quickly, his mouth a compressed line, and turned to regard the doctor with a cool gaze.
我々は我々の裁量で例の薬を有効に活用させていただいています。
しかし危険だ。あの薬は人が扱えるような代物じゃない。
研究は続いています。そしてこの私という成功例もあります。
As Sanan-san did indeed prove, it was possible to drink the water of life and retain your sanity. It just wasn't easy.
一見平気そうに見えるかもしれんが、体のどこかに相当無理をかけていることも考えられるぞ。
私は至って健康ですよ。今後も研究と改良を重ねれば薬の質が上がるのは明白です。
そのためにさらに多くの大使を犠牲にするつもりかね。成功するかどうかもわからん実験に大使を付き合わせるのは生命を冒涜しているとしか思えんが。
彼らは我々の礎となったのです。無駄死にではありません。
しかしだな。
まあまあ、 松本先生も三男君も落ち着いて。この話は後日改めてということにしないか。
It was my private opinion that they were unlikely to agree, no matter what time they discussed the subject. But I felt it was polite to keep quiet.
そうだな、わかった。
There seemed to be very little common ground between them, but both arguments had merit. Kondo had likely seen this as well, and he chose to end things before it got unpleasant.
近藤さんがそうおっしゃるのであれば。
Sanan-san's face betrayed nothing of what he might be thinking, even when the corner of his mouth quirked up into the beginning of a smile. He bowed quietly and left as swiftly as he arrived.
そういえば先生、健康診断の方はどうでしたかな。
We can skip all this.
な
We're minding our business this time. It's not any of our business. The inside of my head was a swirling mass of questions and doubts, but the one thing that most concerned me was turning humans into demons. I just couldn't shake from my mind the image of the Shinsengumi turning humans into demons even after Kazuma left. Maybe he was referring to the water of life and the Furies. Even as the day turned to night, Kazuma's words swirled in my mind and I couldn't get over them. I returned to my room, lost in thought as I recalled the events of the afternoon.
雪村君、夜分遅くに失礼します。まだ起きていますか？
Sanan-san? Oh, I'm still awake. I opened the sliding door to see Sanan-san standing there with a contemplative expression.
すみません。こんな夜分に女性の部屋を訪ねて驚かせてしまったようですね。
Oh, no. I didn't think anything of it. So, is there something I can help you with?
はい。あなたが昼に会ったという鬼の話を伺いたくて。土方君から聞きました。何でも鬼に変えるのをやめろとか言ったそうですが、本当ですか？
And I've been thinking about it all day. Having Sanan-san come to my room to discuss the afternoon's events was a little intimidating, but I let him in my room and I recounted the story.
人を鬼に作り変えることですか。落ち水と羅刹の関係によく似ていますね。
You think so too, Sanan-san?
ええ。高堂さんが向こう側、西国にいるとなると、羅刹の情報も渡っているのかもしれません。羅刹の事実を知った上で忠告しに来たのか、それとも彼らの実験が進んでいるため牽制しに来たのか。ありがとうございます。よく知らせてくれましたね。
No problem at all. I'm just happy to help. We didn't seem to figure out why he came, but we agreed to interpret it as a warning. So could Father have been involved in all this? The thought of it made my heart tighten.
ところで雪村君、あなたは落ち水と羅刹のことをもっと知りたくはないですか？
Learn more? Yes, I do. Well, if that's the case, then could you tell me how my father became involved with these things?
いいでしょう。私たちが今日に来た頃、まだ老子組と名乗っていた時でした。資金も後ろ盾も食べるものさえなく途方に暮れていた時に、当時の芹沢局長が持ち込んだのです。
Chief Serizawa. So Kondo-san wasn't the chief?
浪士組結成時には局長が3人いたんです。その筆頭が芹沢鴨。彼は粗暴な振る舞いも多く、今も言われている新選組の悪い噂のほとんどは彼の所業でした。ですが腕は立ちますし、方々に顔が利くお方でした。そのおかげで浪士組も何とかやっていけていたのですが、その逼迫した状況を打開するために彼が幕府と取引したのが落ち水の実験です。
But Kondo-san told me they did it to make up for the lack of reinforcements from the shogunate.
ええ、うまくいけば戦力の増強になるという意味では人材不足を補うのでしょう。そして芹沢局長はこの新選組で落ち水と羅刹の実験を始めたのです。そのために幕府から派遣されたのがあなたの父雪村光道さんでした。これはあなたも知っていますね。彼は芹沢局長の命で実験を開始しました。実験の対象となったのは大怪我で余命がない者や死罪に値する者がその死と引き換えに承諾したりしたのです。言っておきますが、皆自ら望んで薬を飲んだんですよ。そして芹沢局長のもと何度も実験を続けましたが、ほとんどのものが血に狂い失敗となりました。その失敗となったものをどうしたと思います？
What did you do?
私たち自らの手で葬りました。最後には芹沢局長自らもその対象になりました。今の新選組となるまで私たちは仲間を殺し血で血を洗うような地獄を見てきたのです。光道さんは新選組をそんな状況に作っておきながら忽然と姿を消しました。あまりにも無責任だと思いませんか？私たちが彼を探す理由が分かったでしょう。やはり聞かなかった方が良かったですか？
No, I'm the one who asked.
あなたは強い子ですね。
I don't know why you think I'm strong.
あなたはまだ自分で気づいていないだけです。
Was such a realization truly possible? I was about to cry and my heart broke, as if its shards scattered across an unreachable ether. I had no way of convincing myself in this moment or the next that I was strong.
夜も更けてきたようです。人間はそろそろ寝る時間ですね。
Sanan-san stood without making a sound, bowed and disappeared like a shadow. I thought that having answers would help, but learning about the Shinsengumi's morbid past and knowing how much pain they'd endured, most of all, knowing the extent to which my father was involved in all of this,